This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 212, New Research on Millennials and Social Media. Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we help you grow your tribe and your bottom line through insanely good content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is February 2nd, 2017. Hello, or as we say in Texas, howdy. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. Also, happy Groundhog Day to everybody and to our international folks who have no idea what I'm talking about. It's one of these goofy holidays we have in the States. Not even a holiday. There's a specific groundhog who comes out of his hole, and if he doesn't see a shadow, then there will be an early spring. And if he does see a shadow, there will be 6 more weeks of winter. Totally goofy, but, what can I say? So anyway, happy Groundhog Day to all. It's also a great movie starring Bill Murray. Okay, just a reminder, this podcast is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play Music. So if you like what you hear, please feel free to click on over and subscribe. Also invite you to check out my book, The Content Marketing Coach, Everything You Need to Get in the Game and Win. It's available on Amazon in book and Kindle format. And here's what Content Marketing Institute guru Joe Polizzi had to say about the book. He called it a simple yet effective guide to an approach that most businesses get flat out wrong. Do yourself and your business a favor and take a deep dive into this book. You won't regret it. To learn more about the book and to download a free chapter, go to contentmarketingcoachbook.com. Speaking of Joe Polizzi and his team, I have an update on Content Marketing World. Now, back in, I guess it was December, I shared with you that I had once again submitted to speak at Content Marketing World and just received an email from them a couple of days ago. Now, my proposal to present was not accepted, but I have been invited to serve as a moderator for one of their tracks, and I was overjoyed. I responded immediately, said yes, I would be honored and delighted to moderate a track for you. And so that's it. I will be there in Cleveland in December. So if you are planning to go to Content Marketing World, hit me up. I will keep you posted as to where I'll be, which track I'll be moderating, and hit me up. Let's meet IRL in real life and grab some coffee and talk shop or just, gossip about the other speakers. Anyway, thrilled beyond belief to be attending Content Marketing World. So I hope to see you in Cleveland in September. Okay, last week we talked about the latest phenomenon in the auto retail market. That is a company called Carvana, and why its sales model is a testimony to the power of content. If you happen to miss that episode, feel free to check it out on iTunes or our various other outposts. Today we are talking about some new research that has recently come out about millennials and their social media habits. But first, it's time to check in with our news feed for this week's rundown of news you can use. Okay, we knew it would happen eventually. Facebook is jumping on the disappearing content bandwagon. Yes, can we say competition from Snapchat? TechCrunch is reporting that Facebook launched what they call Facebook Stories in Ireland on iOS and Android apps. So it's currently only being tested in Ireland with plans to bring it to more countries in the coming months. By the way, Facebook, if you need some help testing that app, I would love to go to Ireland. So, hit me up. We'll talk. Okay. The feature lets you share ephemeral photos and videos in a slide share that disappears 24 hours later. And just like happens with live video, you will see notifications when your friends' Facebook stories appear in the main app. So you absolutely cannot miss them. Now, as this article in TechCrunch points out, Facebook has attempted to rip off. Oh, did I say rip off? No, I meant to say adapt to the changing environment that's exemplified by Snapchat, right? And they've done it before with apps like Poke and Slingshot. And the fact that I have no idea what these things are probably indicates the level of success that they found. But this new update, this new feature will put that ephemeral content experience front and center in the Facebook app for all users. Again, that is currently being tested in Ireland and will be rolled out to other countries in the coming months. Okay, some news for our fans of live video streaming. For the first time, a live video streaming platform is allowing you to simultaneously stream to multiple destinations. If you are a premium or an enterprise customer of Livestream, that's at livestream.com, the platform now allows you to simultaneously stream to, get this, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope, and Twitch. So one broadcast, all those different destinations. And I was reading the blog post about this on the Livestream website, and it looks pretty simple. You set up your live stream, you enter the RTMP URLs. I don't know what RTMP stands for. If you want to enlighten me, just let me know. But you're entering the URL of each destination that you want to broadcast to. So it'll be a different URL for Facebook Live, a different one for Twitch, a different one for Periscope, etc. And then you just let her rip. And this is fantastic for once and done events. So things that you don't have the option of redoing for each platform. This is great for things like conferences, things like town halls, and things like product launches. Big events that you want to broadcast on as many platforms as possible. If you'd like to know more about the feature, just click on the link that I will provide in the blog post for this episode. And I need to dig that up so I can share that with you. Note to self. Okay, our content hit of the week is a podcast episode. Mike Stelzner over at Social Media recently launched the episode Content Marketing Success, Why Answering Questions Sells. And in this episode, Mike interviews Marcus Sheridan. Now, if you don't know Marcus Sheridan, aka the Sales Lion, he is somebody you need to know. He was absolutely one of the pioneers of inbound marketing. Before we even used the term content marketing, he was out there using his blog, using his email, using his social media to just build a tremendous business. So in this interview, Marcus talks about his new book, and the title of the book is They Ask, You Answer, A Revolutionary Approach to Inbound Sales, Content Marketing, and Today's Digital Customer. It sounds fantastic, and I can't wait to read it as soon as I make it through my holiday reading list. Okay, but the gist of his argument is that if we are going to get our content seen, and if we are going to build an audience, and if we are going to build trust with those current and prospective customers, we need to create content that helps buyers overcome their fears. And that means talking about things like costs, things like drawbacks, comparisons with other products and services, and a lot of things we just don't want to talk about. A lot of topics that have been taboo for us in our content for whatever reason. But he goes on to share his own success stories around answering these questions. For example, around price. Nobody wants to talk about price, and he's not saying you need to put every single price out there, but you do need to address that issue because people are out there searching for those answers. And if you can be the hero and answer those questions for them, then you have your foot in the door to create a lasting and profitable relationship. Very, very interesting interview. And I will provide the link in the blog post for this podcast episode. Okay, that's it for this week's update. If you stumble across something you think might be of interest to your fellow content marketers, please tweet it to me at Rach Parker so that we can share. Now it's time for this week's Spotlight segment, new research on millennials and social media. Just yesterday, I stumbled across a post on, again, Social Media Examiner, and this was about some new research on millennials and social media. Now, it's been a while since we talked about millennials on this podcast, and or generations in general, but I think it's a topic that bears revisiting because, as time goes by, those dynamics are constantly shifting and changing. So if you are a millennial, listening to this podcast. I know a lot of you are. Love you. You guys are awesome. That said, I want to make a note to my Gen X brethren. I'm a Gen X myself, proud of it. And also to any boomers who may be listening. So millennials, you can chill for a second. Look, Gen Xers and baby boomers, stop writing off millennials as children. Okay. Millennials are not kids anymore. There's a tendency when I hear these conversations about millennials, I hear, it's as if they're still, teeny boppers roaming around the mall and texting their friends about Justin Bieber. And that is not the case. These are adult men and women. They are out of school. They have jobs. They have purchasing power. And even on the B2B side, we're seeing a lot of millennials rise up out of those entry-level positions and actually have access to budget dollars and have decision-making authority in those businesses. Also, something I learned from this article, they now make up 25% of the world's population, and a survey by Accenture revealed that millennial shoppers spend an estimated $600 billion each year. That's billion with a B, 600 billion each year. And that's just on the consumer side. Like I said, on the B2B side, they are gaining access to budgetary dollars and to decision-making authority. So bottom line is ignore millennials at your own risk. Okay, that's my soapbox for the Gen X's and the boomers. Millennials, y'all can come back in, bring your coffee, and let's move on with this research. So in this post by Social Media Examiner by Michelle Krasniak, Michelle, I hope I'm saying that right, she pulls together some recent research to paint an updated picture of how millennials interact with social media. So the bottom line is social user bases are shifting sometimes dramatically, sometimes subtly, and apparently the key is the introduction of new features, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a second. But let's go through these social platforms one by one, starting with everyone's favorite 800-pound gorilla, Facebook. Now, millennials, you could argue that millennials made Facebook. Facebook would not be where it is today if it were not for millennials. And then we saw a drop off when these millennials' parents and even their grandparents started getting active on Facebook. But now we're seeing that trend reverse a little bit, and usage is back on the upswing. And Michelle quotes an RCB Capital Markets survey that shows us an average of 33% of millennials increased the time they spent on Facebook in the past year, whereas an average of 23.5% decreased the time they spend on the platform. So that's a net gain on the number of millennials increasing their time on Facebook. Also, the survey predicts that over the next year, only 17% will increase their usage, and an average of 19% will probably decrease. So we saw an upswing over the past year, but that's going to level out a bit, according to the responses that this survey received. So it looks like Facebook use among millennials will be relatively flat across the next year. And so looking at the reasons for that, I think part of the upswing has had a lot to do with Facebook Live. It was launched in 2015, but I think it still has a lot of appeal for the millennial audience, and also some other new features that Facebook has released that we've talked about on this podcast. So if you are addressing a millennial audience, I would say do whatever you're doing on Facebook, hold that steady. You might not want to throw a ton of resources at it over the next year or so, but definitely keep doing what you're doing, because millennials are still a force to be reckoned with on Facebook. Or let's flip that around. Facebook is still a force to be reckoned with when it comes to reaching millennials. So from there, let's move on to Instagram. Instagram showed a similar flattening of usage numbers, which is not surprising since Facebook owns Instagram. Over the last year, 36.5% of millennials respondents increased their usage of Instagram. 40% use Instagram about the same length of time, and 24% decreased their time on Instagram. But here's the interesting thing. 24% say they will use Instagram more in the coming year, and fewer, 14%, plan to decrease their usage. So it's almost a flip-flop of Facebook. It was kind of flat over the last year, but we can expect to see an increase over the coming year if we are to believe these responses to the survey. And again, according to this article, this is probably due to the surge of new Instagram features. And we've talked a lot on this podcast about the arms race going on between Instagram and Snapchat. Instagram introduced a slew of new features at the end of 2016, including live video and also Instagram Direct, which is the private messaging feature that competes directly with Snapchat. And that's something we're seeing in looking at these different social platforms. It looks like new features or really groundbreaking new features are the key to increasing that millennial engagement. When we see exciting new features, we tend to see a bump in millennial usage. So again, if you are on Instagram, you might want to see about bumping up, and if you are active on Instagram and millennials are in your target audience, you might want to think about bumping up your activity over the coming year because, according to the survey, we will see a higher usage among millennials on Instagram in the months to come. Okay, on to Twitter. Poor Twitter. I love Twitter. I still love Twitter. It's still out there. It's still viable, but I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know where Twitter's going. They haven't really been on the ball with those hot new apps, those hot new features that tend to increase their usage. They're just kind of there. And I will say Twitter has a horrible spam problem. Until they figure out a way to fix that, it's going to be a stumbling block for them. I don't even read my direct messages anymore because I know it's, hey, thanks for following me. Please download my ebook here. I only go there to mark all as read so that I can quit seeing the notifications. I don't know where Twitter's going. I hope they survive. I think it's a wonderful platform. I love it. I use it. I'm on Twitter every day, both personally and for my brand. I just don't know. So that's my 2 cents on Twitter. And even working with my clients yesterday, a client who is not currently on Twitter asked me, should we be getting active on Twitter? And I just don't know. I don't know if I can recommend that they start putting budgetary dollars towards Twitter. Again, depends on the brand, depends on the audience. Okay, that's my 2 cents. Promise. That's the end of my 2 cents on Twitter. So on to the research. Last year, a decent number of millennials increased their Twitter usage, but that growth is expected to level off. On average, 65% of millennial respondents say their time on Twitter will remain the same, and only about 15% say they will decrease their usage. So again, if you are active on Twitter and millennials are an important target group for you, I would say keep doing what you're doing, but keep an eye on those analytics. Really watch the results that you're getting from Twitter. And, if you see them starting to decline, then you might want to look at reapportioning your resources that you devote to social media. Maybe that time and attention and yes, money could be better spent elsewhere. So, don't bet the farm on Twitter. If you're doing it, keep doing it. If you are, but keep an eye on your analytics. And if you're not doing Twitter, if you're not active on Twitter, considering getting involved, I would say dip a toe in. Don't go whole hog. Dip a toe in, see what kind of audience you can build, and then decide from there. Okay, you knew it was coming. Snapchat. Not surprisingly, Snapchat was the big winner in gaining millennial usage over the last year. On average, 45.5% of millennial respondents said they increased the time they spent on the app over the last year. 45.5%. That is really close to half. That is not a small number. However, when it comes to the coming year, not many say they plan to spend more time on the app than they do already. And as Michelle points out in this article, the actual time spent on Snapchat may have reached a peak because, as she points out, Snapchat is what she calls a bit of a one-trick pony. It has very strict basic parameters, and those basic parameters have not changed. Content still disappears. You still have a 10-second limit on your videos. Now, we have seen some new filters come out. We saw a pretty cool new games feature come out in December, the little elf skiing game that got a lot of attention. And as we've seen with other platforms, new features tend to be the driving force behind increasing millennial engagement. So if you are not active on Snapchat and millennials are an important part of your target audience, get active. Get on Snapchat. Bite the bullet. Learn how to use it. You have to be there. You have to be there. If you need to reach millennials, you need to be on Snapchat. And the way that I got active on Snapchat is back in November. I set myself a challenge. I said I'm going to go to Snapchat every day and take an action. Either watch someone else's snaps, or snap something myself, or check out some stories under the Discover tab. And that made it a habit. And now I actually look forward to going to Snapchat every day and sharing some content and looking at some other people's content. So if you're not on Snapchat and you need to reach that millennial audience, get active now. If you are current on Snapchat, you might want to look at increasing your usage. Again, we're not going to be seeing a huge uptick in the time spent on the app this year, but if you are getting good results, then keep that train moving, buddy. Okay, that is the latest research on how millennials are interacting with social media in 2017. Actually, I think the research itself was from late 2016, but no matter. It's pretty darn current. And remember, if millennials are not in your current target audience, they will be. Maybe sooner, maybe later, but they will be. And as marketers, we will be very wise to take into account research like this so that we can more effectively reach that audience. Okay, if you have any questions or want to add to this conversation, I would love to hear from you. Just hit me up on Twitter at Rach Parker. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. Last week, I received a question from one of my LinkedIn followers, and I think it's a good question that is probably on a lot of people's minds. So I had shared some content with some statistics about Facebook Live, and that was it came from Facebook itself, and it cited a fact that people tend to spend three times longer watching live videos on Facebook than they do watching pre-recorded videos. And someone asked me, someone contacted me, she said, I'm very surprised to hear that. Do you think Facebook Live is a good option for B2B brands? It's a very interesting question because we tend to think of Facebook as B2C only. And so I really had to think about this one. And my answer is yes, it can be a viable option for B2B brands. Of course, for B2Bs, the place to be is LinkedIn. That's got to be the bread and butter of your social media activity. And unless and until LinkedIn offers some live video function, I would place my bets on Facebook Live. And again, watch your analytics, see what happens. Remember, once your Facebook Live video is complete, you can download it and share it anywhere. You can share it on your blog, you can upload it to YouTube, or you can do something that I do. You can upload it to SlideShare, which is owned by, guess who? LinkedIn, and share it on LinkedIn that way. And I've got some very good response to those SlideShare videos that I have shared on LinkedIn. So if you are a B2B company and just not sure about this Facebook Live thing, I would say go ahead and jump in, give it your best effort, and more importantly, keep an eye on your analytics and see what kind of results you get. Okay, campers, that is it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this Groundhog Day episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. And if you want the true Groundhog Day experience, you can listen to it over and over and over again. So if you like what you've heard, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play Music or via our RSS feed or via our several other outposts. If you really like what you've heard, please do leave us a quick review on iTunes. I would so appreciate that. That helps our search mojo, helps us get in front of more people, and helps grow our little community. Also, remember that my new book, The Content Marketing Coach, Everything You Need to Get in the Game and Win, is available in book and Kindle format on Amazon. To learn more about the book and to download a free chapter, visit contentmarketingcoachbook.com. As you know, I always like to leave you with a quote, and today's comes from the great Roman philosopher Cicero. He once said, quote, "The wise are instructed by reason, average minds by experience, the stupid by necessity, and the brute by instinct." Unquote. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.